Welcome to the CarbSmart podcast, where your decision to embrace low-carb nutrition becomes a fun and delicious lifestyle. I'm your host, Dana Carpenter, here to guide you through the ins and outs of everything low-carb. Today, we're talking about an essential nutrient that, like animal fats and cholesterol, has long been unjustly treated as if it's practically poison. Let's talk about sodium. Are you not getting enough sodium on your low-carb diet? Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because you don't want to miss a single episode. I originally wrote this article in 2011, but the information is still important, so I'm recording it pretty much as originally written, despite a few now dated mentions, including the then new The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living, which, if you haven't read it, you still should. Serendipity, the faculty or phenomenon of finding valuable or agreeable things not sought for. It's funny how events sometimes just sort of compile themselves in a useful shape. A few days ago, I was annoyed when I opened the freezer on the top of my kitchen fridge and a bag of steak bones, accumulated over many months, fell out at my feet. I figured that was the universe's way of telling me it was time to make beef broth. So I put the steak bones in my soup kettle, covered them with water, added a little salt and vinegar, and let them simmer for a couple of days. Yes, a couple of days on very low heat. A slow cooker would work too and wouldn't heat up the kitchen as much. But seeing as it's in the 90s here in southern Indiana, a nice pot of vegetable beef soup just didn't sound appealing. On an entirely different front, I'd had a cluster of annoying minor symptoms recently. Tired with no reason, a little queasy, lightheaded when I stood up. When I pointed my toes to stretch, my calves would start to cramp. A little headachy, a little achy. I'd been irritable, cross for no good reason. Most frightening, I'd made some odd, inexplicable errors in very basic arithmetic and used the wrong word for simple things, saying purple when I meant green, that sort of thing, enough times to disturb me. I wondered if I might be slipping hypothyroid again, and thought maybe bumping up my dose of Armour Thyroid might help. I emailed my doctor to inquire. Then I went outside to read The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living, which had been sitting on my desk for a couple of weeks. It's great, and I recommend it highly, though I'm only about 85 pages in. Having seen both authors, Stephen Phinney and Jeff Volek, speak during the Q&A at the Nutrition and Metabolism Society Symposium back in April, and having read New Atkins for a New You, I knew they put an emphasis on adding sodium to a low-carbohydrate diet because of the kidney's increased excretion of sodium when insulin levels drop. This is why you lose water weight in the first few weeks and why blood pressure drops so fast on a low-carbohydrate diet. Hadn't really thought much about it, though. I've been low-carb for so long, I figured my body had worked it out long since. Then I got to the piece at the beginning of The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living about the symptoms of sodium deficiency, also known as hyponatremia. And guess what? It sounded very familiar. I looked up hyponatremia online and found this. Symptoms of hyponatremia include nausea and vomiting, headache, confusion, lethargy, fatigue, appetite loss, restlessness and irritability, muscle weakness, spasms or cramps, seizures, and decreased consciousness or coma. Sounded all too familiar, except for the coma part, thank heaven. I got to thinking about it, and it seemed possible I've been eating less salt than I used to. I have been eating less in general since I went on the blood sugar medication Victoza. 2, I haven't been eating a lot of the dishes that have much salt mixed in, soups and stews and the like, because of the hot weather. There's a limit to how much salt you can shake on your eggs or steak, you know? More than once, I've substituted Greek yogurt with strawberries and nuts, very little sodium there, for supper. And of course, like everyone else, I sweat more in hot weather, losing sodium that way. Been eating a lot of veggies, so my potassium intake has been up, and potassium and sodium need to balance. All told, it seemed very possible that I had become hyponatremic. Well, I knew that Volek and Finney recommended bouillon or broth as a source of sodium, and there I was with a big pot of beef broth. Beef broth with considerably less sodium than the commercial variety, I might add. Still, there had to be some way to use the broth. I flashed on church coffee hours back at dear old Christ Church in Ridgewood, New Jersey, in my childhood. Along with coffee, tea, and juice, they served a popular light soup, just a 50-50 mixture of beef broth and tomato juice. Indeed, I included it in one of my cookbooks. And tomato juice is fairly high in sodium. So, for that matter, is V8, which I prefer to tomato juice. And I had some in the basement. So, I poured a 4-ounce can of V8 and a half cup of my nice beef broth into my little saucepan and added a teaspoon of beef better than bouillon, heated it up, stirred till the bouillon paste dissolved, poured it into a mug, and tried it. It was lovely, very tasty, light enough that it didn't seem overwhelming in the heat, and by my calculations it had more than a gram of sodium, putting it in the range recommended by Volek and Finney, 1 to 2 grams of additional sodium per day, 7 grams of usable carb. The next day, I found a version I like even better, especially for summer, 4 ounces of chilled V8 and 4 ounces of chilled beef broth, with an extra half teaspoon of good, mined, ancient seabed sea salt stirred in. Added a few dashes of Louisiana hot sauce, too. This is really refreshing. It has over a gram of sodium per serving. I've been drinking this once a day. Leaving out the bouillon concentrate drops another gram of carb off this, by the way. 6 grams of usable carb total. My whooshy head, queasy stomach, and general bad disposition have cleared up. My energy level is back where it belongs, and so far, I haven't had another disconcerting moment of hearing the wrong word come out of my mouth or messing up embarrassingly easy arithmetic. So now I know what I'm going to do with all that beef broth. It seemed very possible that some of you might have the same problem, especially if it's as warm there as it's been here. Again, Volek and Finney consider this sodium supplementation important, and they're smart and very knowledgeable guys. If the symptoms above ring a bell, you might want to add some salt to your diet daily and see how you feel. One caution, a poster at my Facebook fan page took me to task for using bouillon concentrate and canned juice. I am not a purist, and I make no apologies for that. More about that in another podcast soon. She said I should just stir a teaspoon of salt into a glass of water and drink it. Be careful if you do this. Why? Because if you get too much salt in that water, it makes for a terrific intestinal purge. That's why. The salt flush is an old colon cleansing technique, which is fine if that's what you want, but stick close to the bathroom if you do. And you'll still need to get your sodium somewhere else because most of it will be running straight through you if you do this. Indeed, it may take some other nutrients with it. The take-home message here is that despite the demonizing of sodium, it is an essential nutrient. Without it, we die. Low-carbohydrate diets both normalize the body's ability to excrete excess sodium and dramatically reduce our intake of processed foods, baked goods, chips, and other snack foods, the biggest sources of sodium in the modern American diet. So pay attention. Be aware, too, that having elevated blood pressure does not necessarily mean you need a low-sodium diet. Clinical studies show that salt restriction raises blood pressure as often as it lowers it. It is possible to be hyponatremic and hypertensive at the same time. This is true of that nice boy I married. He is hypertensive and hyponatremic. Every basic checkup, they take his blood pressure and say, "Oh, you need to eat less salt." And he points to his blood work and says, "But I'm hyponatremic." If you have high blood pressure, be sure you are in the minority who are sodium reactive before you decide to restrict your salt. Anyway, it seemed important to let you all know. I have mentioned that I'm old. How old are you? I hear you cry. I'm so old that I can remember that back in the days before near universal air conditioning, water coolers often had dispensers of salt tablets attached because everyone knew that salt was important, especially in hot weather. Of course, that was also before liquid candy in all its forms was consumed in huge doses multiple times a day. It's exciting to find yet another body system that for so many of us normalizes as our insulin levels drop. Have you been limiting salt? Supplementing it? Do you enjoy salt? Do you use a particular kind of salt? Have you discovered that salt is often the solution for what some people call the keto flu? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because you don't want to miss a single episode. Until next time, stay low carb, happy, and healthy.